afternoon and welcome to CEC Gurukul lecture. In continuation with the series on economic sociology, in today's lecture we're going to discuss the conception and definition of economic sociology. This is part 4 of the lectures. In the first part we discussed about the growth of economic sociology. The second we discussed about contribution of Karl Marx and Max Weber. In the third lecture we discussed on Schumpeter's and Emil Durkheim contribution to economic sociology. This part we will discuss Karl Polanyi's theory of economic transformation and try to understand how these new theory, contemporary theory, led to the emergence of new economic sociology. So, let us see how we are going to understand the conception of economic sociology. First, let us see the comparison between Schumpeter's theory of class and Karl Marx theory. Both have given us a theory of class and stratification. So, what is the difference? Marx class theory is based on relations of production, meaning class distinction arises from ownership and control over the means of production. So, this we have done in several lectures where we have discussed in detail on class theory of Marx, where very simply put he says that the modes of production, how you produce, will lead to the class. So, where you had collective ownership, everybody was engaged in the mode of production, class differences were less. As individuals started accumulating property through accumulation of capital through private property, it led to the creation of two classes, those who owned capital and those who did not, and there was a class conflict between the two. In contrast, Schumpeter's class theory is not solely tied to economic ownership, but rather to the ability to perform social important functions, especially entrepreneurial and leadership role. Now, as economic and political social transformations are taking place, how will you kind of create a strata? The strata will be created by the ability of a few to be able to emerge in the situation, apply new theory, be innovative, create new product which will lead to kind of more and wealth and capital accumulation, and also the ability to play a leading role in terms of adapting to the transformations that is taking place. Now, these who have this capacity or who are entrepreneurs and leaders will be the ones who will create a status, higher status or elite, and therefore a stratification will be between those who have this entrepreneurial skills and leadership and those who don't. Class mobility in Schumpeter's view is influenced by innovation and adaptability, whereas Marx sees class struggle as the primary driver of historical change. So, Marx argued that when the class consciousness increases, where people of the subordinate class becomes aware, the working class become aware, or the proletariat become aware of their rights being profit being not on their earning being less, the livelihood being less, is a time when they will rise up in a class conflict, and this class conflict would lead to a end of it and give way to socialism. Now, we differentiate the theory of Schumpeter's theory from elite theory, which is given by Mosca and Pareto. Mosca and Pareto's theory focus on the persistence of elites, arguing that a small group of people will always dominate society by maintaining power and influence. So, kind of looks into the elite as a fixed permanent group. Schumpeter, however, defines class in terms of functionality rather than mere power retention. In his view, the leading class holds its position because it contributes to economic and social progress, not simply because it protects its privilege. Now, the third distinction between Schumpeter's theory and classical functionalism. Now, classical functionalist theories such as Emil Durkheim and Talcott Parson argue that social stratification exists because it serves a necessary function in maintaining social order. So, the functionalist theory considered stratification as a prerequisite, that it was necessary for maintaining social order in society. Schumpeter's theory has a functional element. He emphasizes the role of entrepreneurs and leaders, however, does not assume that all class positions are functionally justified. He acknowledged that the class system at any given time is a mix of two factors. Number one, socially relevant roles, positions that actively contribute to progress, and number two, inherited class legacies, status passed down through generation which may persist even when it no longer serves a vital functions. So, Schumpeter presents a dynamic view of class where mobility is driven by economic and social adaptation rather than rigid structures like property ownership in Marx theory or elite theory dominance in Moscow's and Pareto elite theory. However, Schumpeter also acknowledges that inherited advantages can sustain class position even they no longer contribute meaningfully to society, making his theory more nuanced than classical functionalism. So, that is how we kind of understand Schumpeter's contribution in terms of giving us a more dynamic theory of stratification and highlighting the roles of entrepreneurs as innovators and leaders. The last thinkers that we discuss in terms of conception and definition of economic society is Karl Polanyi, and he has given us a theory of embeddedness of economy in society. Karl Polanyi's critique of political economy, particularly his concept of economistic fallacy, challenges the mainstream economic assumption that market-based logic is universal and applies to all human society. Polanyi distinguishes between two fundamental aspects of economic life. Number one, the substantive aspect. This refers to how human societies organize the economy to satisfy basic need within specific historical, social and environmental context. It emphasizes that economic systems are embedded in broader social and cultural structures rather than being driven solely by individual choice and market logic. The second aspect is the formal aspect or the formalist school. This corresponds to neoclassical economic definition, which sees economic activity as a matter of rational decision making, scarcity of resources and efficient allocation through market mechanism. It treats economic behavior as universal and timeless principle applicable to all society in all historical periods. The economist fallacy occurs when economist and policymaker assume the formal aspect of economic life based on rational choice and market competition as the only valid way to understand economy. According to Polanyi, this is a mistake because market economy as we know them today are historically specific and emerged only in certain contexts, that is Western capitalism. In many pre-capitalist society, economies were organized around reciprocity, redistribution and householding, not just market exchange. Treating the market economy as natural and inevitable system ignores the social and political structures that shape economic activity, and that is why it is termed as economist fallacy. The discussion is only partial, it is only highlighting economic aspect and or the market is the center of analysis, Whereas for any market to emerge, it is important to look in how the society and the politics kind of responds to it. Polanyi argues that the rise of market economies in modern history was not an organic process, but was politically constructed through state intervention, legal framework, and social transformation. For example, the enclosure movement in England. He challenges the idea that human society naturally gravitates towards free market, emphasizing that economic systems have always been embedded in social relations. So, Polanyi's contribution is basically in terms of looking into the production of new forms of knowledge, and that is why it is termed as intellectual contribution. His research aligns with this division of labor between disciplines. His work goes beyond traditional economic analysis in three key ways. Number one, critique of political economy. Polanyi challenged the dominant economic paradigm that assumes market functions independent of social and political forces. He argued that markets are not self-regulating but shaped by institutional and political intervention. So, market is a place where competition is taking place. If it is not regulated, it will kind of create a lot of chaos. So, the state comes in as a regulator of market. The exchange takes place smoothly between there is no monopoly is because of the involvement of state. The second critique of the political economy is to look into the interplay between economic and social phenomena. Polanyi emphasized that economic systems are socially embedded as cultural norms, social institutions, and historical context influence economic behavior. So, it is not that markets were not there in the pre-capitalist society, but the manner in which exchange takes place was different. So, there is a certain kind of understanding of the cultural norm that led to monetary exchange. We need to look into the social institutions that developed parallelly to the market and had an influence on it. Polanyi analyzed different ways society have historically organized economic life, such as reciprocity, that is mutual exchange, redistribution, that is state controlled economy, and market exchange. So, these three are evolving through certain historical and social political changes that is taking place. So, with mutual exchange, it turns into the state controlled economy, regulated economy, and then comes in the market exchange. He argued that market capitalism is just one form of economic organization, not a universal or inevitable system. Contradiction in market industrial capitalism is another important aspect taken care by Karl Polanyi. He highlighted the tension within capitalist economy, particularly the conflict between free market and social stability. His famous concept of the double movement describes how capitalist expansion leads to market liberalization, but this in turn triggers social resistance and demand for government regulation to protect workers, communities, and the environment. Polanyi's work provides a broader interdisciplinary approach to understanding economy, showing that they cannot be analyzed in isolation from the social and institutional context. His contribution remains influential in debate about economic regulation, globalization, and the role of state in managing market forces. Polanyi's central thesis is that he emphasizes the economy as embedded within the larger society. According to Polanyi, economic agents are immersed in social relations and do not solely act to maximize their material interest. So, human beings are not kind of without emotions, or they are without kind of being a social being. They are social being first, and then they become an economic man. So, they are not kind of working for capitalist accumulation in a vacuum or a closed room. They are in relationship with their family, with their colleagues, with the other co-workers. So, social cannot be kind of negated from the economic life, and vice versa. To understand the economy, it is important to understand the social dimension. They Human beings aim to safeguard their social position, status, pretense, and social advantage. So, the whole idea is, why does an individual want to progress? Say, why does one want a promotion to a higher rank? It's not only the compensation or the salary that is received, it's also a situation of a better, or I'm sorry, a higher status, a higher prestige. So, it's not only about utilitarian factor, it is also about the other social cultural aspect. So, this perspective underscores the interdependence between the economy and the broader social structure. Throughout history, economic activities have been regulated by social, political, and moral consideration rather than being governed by market forces alone. Reciprocity, which was found in the pre-industrial society, simple society, or mutual exchange, and then we come to redistribution involving the state intervention. So, the state takes away the resources, say with people who have huge amount, and distributes it among the low economic class, or those who do not have. And the third is the householding, that is self-sufficient production, were historically dominant forms of economic organization. Unlike previous economic system, capitalism is unique because it has separated itself from social control and made the economy the dominant force in society. So, everything is regulated, everything has a price and a value to be purchased and sold in the market. Under capitalism, institutions such as market, labor, land, and money operate according to economic logic rather than social need. As a result, economic priorities, that is profit, efficiency, and competition, shape all other aspects of life, often at the expense of social cohesion and stability. Rather, too much of focus on economy, on your rational capital accumulation individual, leads to straining of social relations. So, there are many who kind of focuses more on work in terms of earning, neglects the family, and therefore there could be violence, there could be conflict in the family. So, that is how the capitalism has become identified with market, because of the changing priority of social being turning out to be a economic man. Market capitalism has been dominant for centuries. Many scholars assume it represents a natural and a universal economic system. However, Karl Polanyi argues that capitalism is historically specific phenomena, not a timeless or inevitable stage of human development. His approach overlooks the integrate interplay between social structure and individual or collective action in the context of market capitalism. Now, this is the first criticism of Polanyi's approach, where he is focusing on too much of the interplay between social structure and economic action. So, he is saying that the kind of economic action cannot take place without the integration between the economy and society. His theory also implies his exceptionalist view of capitalism as an artificial result of external factors undermines the understanding of its internal dynamics and its relationship with society. In a sense, the critique highlights the need for a more nuanced analysis that considers both the internal dynamics of capitalism and its relationship with broader societal structure. The second criticism is that Polanyi's division of economic activity might make it seem like formal economic analysis is only useful for studying liberal capitalism in a specific historical period. This could discourage the development of a general economic theory and the comparison of different economic systems. However, despite these criticisms, Polanyi has helped in evolving economic sociology. His theory of embeddedness is very central to the understanding that economy and society are not pole apart. There is a continuous flow and integration between the two, and it is important for a researcher to understand the interaction between the two rather than discussing only economy from a purely market oriented analysis. So, he has played a kind of a critical role in the development of economic sociology. Now, when we have discussed these thinkers, we need to understand that economic sociology has emerged, it has grown over the years, though it is a kind of a very late development, but it has undergone a great transformation. And the shift to supply side economy in the 1970s, driven by globalization and the digital society, changed the focus of economic sociology. This led to the emergence of new approach, which is now known as new economic sociology. And the first thinkers that we discussed in new economic sociology is Gellizer. His entry in the International Encyclopedia of Social and Behavioral Science distinguishes three distinct approaches to economic phenomena in recent economic sociology. The extension approach, where theorists apply standard economic models to social phenomena not extensively treated by economists such as household behavior or sports activities. Alberto Martinelli defined social economy as a branch of economics. He identified three approaches to economic phenomena in recent economic sociology: the extension approach, the context approach, and the alternative approach. The extension approach applies standard economic models to social phenomena not extensively treated by economists. The context approach studies economic phenomena through network analysis, focusing on social organization that facilitates or constrain economic action. The alternative approach emphasizes the creation, maintenance, and transformation of meaningful social relations in all areas of economic life. It is the most comprehensive approach that gives explicit attention to combination of culture, interpersonal ties, and network structural categories such as class, gender, ethnicity, and rationality. White social network theory is other kind of contribution that we see to the contemporary development of economic sociology. There are number of thinkers who has kind of contributed in a large way to the new economic sociology, say in the 80s, 90s, and recently. Here we have a list of few of them. White Social Network Analysis, published in 1992, Coleman's Interest, Social Capital and Trust, 1990, Granovetter's Embeddedness and Social Construction of Economic Institutions, 2017, Powell and D. Maggio's Institutional Isomorphism, 1991, Flistein's Corporate Control, Gelzier's Social Meaning of Money, Piri Bodio, Habitus, and Champ's Economy. Now, if we look into the concept of the network, it has become very crucial concept in understanding economic sociology. Harrison C. White analyzed economic phenomena through the lens of social network, arguing that markets and economic interactions are deeply embedded within social structures and relationships rather than existing in isolation, essentially viewing the economy as a complex network of interconnected actors and their ties. The second concept is that of Coleman's concept of social capital. This was import the economist principle of rational action for use in the analysis of social system without discarding social organization in the process. As such, Coleman connected sociology and the social action of individual within the rational ideas of economists, and that is why the concept of social capital. So, you have economic capital, you have a social capital. The third, DiMaggio and Powell argues that organization in capitalist society tend to become similar in form due to the pressure from other organization, government regulation, professional standard and societal expectation. This is the process of institutional isomorphism, shows that economic behavior are often less driven by market forces and more by institutional norms and cultural understanding. Flickstein portrays manager as people acting in a social world, a world of reference group, power conflict, worldviews, constraint, organizations and institutions. So, we have gone through the entire emergence of economic sociology to the more recent contemporary analysis of economic sociology. And for reference, we need to read Martinelli Alberto 2023, The Conception and Definition of Economic Sociology, published in the Routledge International Handbook of Economic Sociology, pages from 57 to 74. With this, I come to an end of this lecture. Thank you.